Hi there, and welcome. Now it's time for America's favorite podcast, Leave Your Mark, with your host, Vince Cortese.
This is Leave Your Mark. I'm Vince Cortese, and today's guest is John Vincent Calipari. He was born and raised in Pittsburgh. He is a father. His father is a steelworker, and a mother worked in the school cafeteria, and he had humble beginnings in the Pittsburgh area. And he went to Moon High School, graduated in 1978 with an athletic scholarship going to UNC Wilmington. John, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Vince. Thanks.
What I like to do with my guests is share their background of their youth with my audience. And you have a very interesting story in that your father coming from Italy and your upbringing in the Moon area. So could you kind of share with me in your youth what it was like with mom and dad and your family and your upbringing, what activities you participated in?
You know, it was my grandfather came from Italy. My dad was born here. Matter of fact, I've got an Italian passport and I'm an Italian citizen based on that background. But, you know, my family started in the coal mines of Clarksburg, West Virginia. My grandfather came over, and that's where the American dream started for our family. Obviously, my parents met in Western Pennsylvania, and my sisters and I were raised in Coriopolis, Moon Township. But, you know, I go back to when we grew up. There were no credit cards. There were no vacations. Things were on layaway. People don't know what layaway was. You know, you pick stuff up and it took you 6 months to pay for it so you could get it at Christmas, or furniture that was, we would go to Gillis in Coriopolis, and once a week my mother would, you know, put $10 down for the furniture we had. So, but you know what, it's, you learned how to have fun, how to, and where we grew up. And Vince, similar to you, everybody was the same. There was no, well, Swickley Heights was over there. Had some Swickley Heights going on. But where we grew up across the river, you know, we were all the same. All my friends, their families, it was no so-and-so has this or that. And you know, some of my best friends today are the guys I grew up in high school with. They come down to games and we hang out together. So, but I wouldn't, you know, I grew up right near the high school, which put me in the gym all the time. I mean, literally 15 steps away from where I lived was the high school. And
that brings up my first question, because I always admire people when they're younger, that they know what their career endeavor is going to be. And it brings up my thinking of yourself, because I have a little backstory with you, and I don't know that you would remember it, but my dad was coaching at Quaker Valley at the time. And I know that you live near Dad's brother, Uncle Tony, and he's good friends with your father. And you would call up. Now, this in the modern era is now AAU, or it is permitted. So this one's like, you were probably like a sophomore, maybe a junior in high school, and you'd call up, "Big coach, I got 5 guys. Let's pick it up and open up the gym." And I was 4 years behind, and I relished that phone call when you would call, because here I was in the 7th or 8th grade at the time, whatever it was, and I was bent on getting a college scholarship. So the idea that all the bigger guys from across the river come over and beat up on me, I knew it was going to get better. So it was kind of interesting, because also upon graduating high school, myself recruited like you, I wind up at Clarion, and I didn't know you were there. So it was really like, I was thinking to myself initially, what's this guy doing here? How did he get here? You know, but it brings back fond memories for me, because of the ties of Pittsburgh and the neighborhood and what it was like. So you always had a special place in my heart, even though I remember at the practices at Clarion would get a little rough. Coach D. Gregorian like stuff. But what I want to touch on is, did you have a moment, or did it just kind of seemingly happen that you knew you were going to be a coach?
I didn't know I'd be a coach at that point, but it it was the only way you could get pickup games.
Yeah.
Like went to Center High School up on the hill. They had the park and there were outdoor courts. You'd go to Ambridge. Vic Bianchi would be running gyms, and you'd have either summer leagues or you'd go to a gym. In Monaca, down by the bottoms, they had courts there that we would go play pickup games. So you knew where to go and when. And when you didn't, you made calls. Like anybody playing Beaver High School, they used to have a summer league at Beaver with Doc Zinke, and we'd all, we had our 5 or 6. We'd get in the car and we'd go. But that's how you become family. And when you ask me about coaching, well, first of all, the people that I looked up to were the teachers and the coaches. And, you start looking at it and say, I just want to be a high school teacher and a coach. That's basically what I thought about when I became a junior or senior. That's what I felt I would want to do. And then part of it is Bill Sacco, Skip Tatala, Ray Pizzetti, Mark Capuano. Those were all the coaches. So I thought all the Italians, your dad included, I thought all the Italians were coaches. So I guess that's what I'm supposed to be. But, I mean, it was...
graduating from the steel mills.
Yeah, exactly. But that's, then you go to college and you're like, wow, maybe I can do this. And, I end up doing some things through 5-star and some different camps. And, I was lucky. I was fortunate. And, it's kind of like Larry Brown and I've stayed close. Ted Owens and I have stayed close, guys that have helped. And I always say this, when you see a turtle on a post, he didn't get there by himself. There were people along the way that picked him up and helped him. And so I've had plenty of that throughout my career, that I've been blessed in those ways. But I've been, like you said, I end up playing at Clarion for Joe D. End up being at Kansas as a volunteer because I worked their basketball camp, and Ted Owens asked me to stay. He said, I want you to stay on my staff. I said, what position? He said, volunteer. Go, really? How much is a volunteer make? And so worked in the training meal and did all that. But, I don't think any of us in our wave of coaches got in this based on money or anything else. We just loved the coaching part of it and the challenge of it and the relationship building and all those kind of things.
Connect with us on LinkedIn. Be our friend on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You are listening to Vince Cortese. We just want you to leave your mark.
Now, in the way of coaching strategy, who do you think was your biggest influence? Because you rub shoulders with all the greats, as well as you're one yourself now. So, I mean, do you kind of sprinkle a little bit of this guy and a little bit of that guy, and that turns into what you're doing? Or is there one guy that made a biggest influence?
Well, the basic parts of coaching for me, that it's about team, it's about individual development, it's about creating relationships, all the basic fundamentals. It's about sharing. It's about, it's not about one or two guys. It's about this entire team benefiting by this. That was all Larry Brown. How the game has evolved, the dribble drive. Junior college coach from California is coming in to watch the Memphis Grizzlies practice. He comes to watch us practice. We go to dinner. He diagrams the dribble drive, Vance Walpert. And I thought he was crazy. And I end up instituting the dribble drive. Friends of mine thought I was crazy. Why would you do this? You've won 75% of your games. Yeah. Now we're winning 90% of our games. And it's helping players. It's making a difference for them. So it was by chance, but taking a risk and being curious and where's the game going? And even now, the NBA has taken dribble drive and taken it to another level, more based on spacing and all those kind of things. But it's the same idea, lane touches or threes. So And even now, I'm trying to look at where the game is going and how do we stay ahead of this? How do we move things that are happening? But,
I mean, reflecting on when we played, we didn't, we're going to date ourselves severely here. There was no 3-point line when we played.
Right.
We graduated college and there was no 3-point line. There was no shot clock. So that what you just mentioned there, I mean, we've evolved to where the game is now, instead of in the lane with the big fella, is a bunch of shooters out on the 3-point line with your dribble drive strategy. And it's like, where do you think this is heading? Like, I think 10 years from now.
You don't really know, but here's what I would say. It was not long ago. It was the double post. It was not long ago where it was small ball. It was not long ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In waves. But I think what's happened is the game is being changed by the players, not the coaches.
Yeah.
And it's being changed by the players, by their skill set and things that they're able to do. I'll give you an example. The NBA works on, quote, deep threes. They work on it. Well, what's a deep three? It's 3 steps beyond the NBA line.
Wow.
And players work on shooting on that shot. And I said, why would you work on that shot? They said, because it's an unguarded shot. You're not going to be guarded out there. So if you can make it, it's one of those shots that are not guarded. In the NBA right now, when you and I grew up, it was 5 passes before we shoot. It's set a screen. It's ball, player. Every time you set a screen, we didn't realize the defense got closer and closer to the rim and made it even harder.
Yeah.
But that's the way the game was played. Now, if you took a contested shot, then we were told that was a bad shot. It was contested. You need to work it till you get some open shot. Well, there are no bad shots in the NBA unless it gets blocked. That's a bad shot.
Yeah.
If you get it off, that's a good shot.
Yeah.
There are things that you're seeing. I still think length, ability to defend, which means the longer your players are, the better athletic they are with their feet. You can switch and do stuff. So I think that part of the game will continue to change.
I think that the idea of the athleticism, as you mentioned earlier, you're seeing a kid that's 6'8" to 6'10" that has athletic ability, like in our day, where it was like a 6'2" guy, and when you're seeing that kind of capability, I mean, I could remember seeing you at UMass, how you would run practice, and it seemed like it was more driven toward a scheme of which you wanted to implement. And then recently I saw some footage of you and your Kentucky practice where the freedom is so huge. The kid and the player is given such a amount of space to do what he wants to do. And I think that the coaching, I mean, you would know this better than anybody. In the 4 decades that you've been coaching, how different is it now to reach a kid that you want to give his all? Is he like Coach Calipari enough to give him everything he's got? So it's like you have a kind of a different road to hoe than you did years ago. Like it's much different.
Yeah, the kids today, they still want to be coached, but you can't just say, go do this. There's got to be a reason, and they need to know what's in it for me. How does this help me? How does this help our team? I mean, you got to explain more versus just say, here's what we're doing. I'll give you an example of right now in the NBA, and I believed it in college for the last 10, 12 years, floaters are the best 2-point shot. And there's 2 reasons. One, if you shoot it correctly, it can hang on the rim. So either you make it or miss it. But if it hangs on the rim, you got the floater because the big came out to guard you on your drive, which means the big will dunk your miss. So it's a really high percentage shot. Well, now it's the shot in the NBA that's not a 3. You don't see post-ups anymore.
We saw that in the NBA final.
You don't see many pull-up jumpers. You have Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Kawhi, CP3, and a couple others that can shoot a pull-up jumper from 15 to 17 feet and make 50% of those, but they want you to make 55 to 60% of those, which is why only those guys are really shooting it, because they can make 60% of them. The rest of them, you got to shoot a floater. You got to get a little closer, but you can't go try to shoot a layup. They're too big.
Yeah.
They block it. So it's something that we're working on, but I've got to explain to them why. And then I got to show them with tape. Here's what you're going to get. This is where the game is going. You have to master your craft. This is what you have to master. So it's kind of the approach I've taken over the years. We call players first. We're making it about you. By doing it that way, it hasn't taken away from what we have done. Still won more games, more Sweet 16s, more Elite Eights, more Final Fours, won a national title, probably should have won 2 others, had a position to be in there. But at the end of the day, you're not winning a national title every year. I want to, our fans want to. Are you in a position every year? Last year, with COVID and what any young team like ours went through, just, I'm anxious to get started again, get back at it, how we do it and how we go through it.
I believe what you have in the modern era is very difficult, because as a coach, you're trying to cultivate a team. And with these kids coming and going and the transferring as prevalent as it's become, how hard is it to keep a core of kids together for, say, even 2 seasons?
It's almost impossible. But we've been doing this since I've been the coach at Kentucky. Every year is a new year, and it kind of makes it fun because you can't have a lesson plan. You got to try things, and then you got to say that doesn't work, and then you got to try new stuff, and that doesn't work, and you got to get them to understand if we win, we all benefit. You got to be a servant leader where you care about your team more than yourself. But we have results in that we've had the number 1 draft pick average 13 points a game.
Wow.
Number 1 pick in the draft. We've had lottery picks average 8 or 9 points a game, and they're lottery picks. Numbers don't matter. If we win at the highest level, we're all eat. Everybody has the benefit of this. And again, I say, at the end of the day, our best players are drafted in the best positions, but almost 70% of our players are drafted.
Wow.
But again, not at the expense of winning and not at the expense of the program. And so it is, we're in a unique time now with name, image, and likeness, with transfer without penalty. And when you say, what will the game look like? I don't really know.
Wow. Yeah.
If you are listening from Australia, Florida, or just from around the corner,
from East Coast to West Coast outlets, if you're not into the dirty South straight, make a left and body.
Contact us. Leave your mark with your host, Vince Cortese.
Let me take this. I want to shift gears a little bit because I know we're limited on time. I want you to share with me the succeed and proceed philosophy that you implement and what you're currently doing. Because I know with the COVID, I thought it was great. You were not having the kids come to the university for camp. You were going to that, which was really cool. So if you could share with the philosophy with me and then some of what you're currently doing, and then I'll let you go.
Well, Vince, succeed and proceed is you master your craft. You're totally committed to each other and your team. You're self-evaluating. You're spending more time. You're sacrificing more. You're betting on yourself. And at the end of the year, you look at the information and you and a family decide, do we stay another year or 2 or 3? Or do we go and put our name in the draft? And the meeting with me will not be real long, but the information will be there. There's some that I say, look, what if you go in the second round? Are you going to be okay with that? Yes. All right. That's what. So everybody's telling you first round, you may be a second round pick. if you're not in the lottery, are you okay with that? Because I know what you're hearing, but that may not happen. So I try to do that. There are some that I say, why would you come back? You're going to be 1, 2, or 3 in the draft. There's no reason for you to come back. So that's what we say: succeed as a team, succeed as an individual, and then move on. Now, right now, Vince, our players, this is not endorsements. This is not European contracts. This is just NBA contracts. Our kids have made over $3 billion.
Wow.
We've had over 55 kids drafted. We've had 10 kids in the modern era get to second contracts. So we've had, 10 of our current players get to second contracts, or max deals, I should say. So max deals, these kids are making 170, 180 million, 190, 200 million. I mean, and the whole idea of this is not just about using young people to benefit us or the program. This is, we're here to help you. The way you help each other is you win at the highest level. You trust each other. You're honest with each other. You benefit by each other, and then everybody eats. And that's how you get to over $3 billion in contracts. And you have, 50 some players, 35 at a time in the league, 4 to 5, 6 in the All-Star game. It's truly amazing, because 3 on the Olympic team right now.
Wow.
3 of our players.
It's just amazing. Now, just share with me your philosophy on La Familia, because that's a whole nother area of your website that is not something you normally see in your college environment. And I think you're doing something really special with these young men, besides what you just shared, but you're approaching it an emotional way.
Well, there are ways that we stay connected with these kids. I just, you may not remember Mike Williams, who was my guard from my UMass days. He just passed away three days ago. I've been on the phone with his sons and his wife for the last 2 days. His funeral will be August 13th. What we went through with Terrence Clark, and there are things like that you go through. There are times the kids need help. They're calling. I'm with these players till the wheels fall off, and I want them to know that. We also have a fund for their children, for education. So when their children come of age, they have that opportunity to, ask for grants and do stuff that we're there. This is lifetime commitment. I don't ever want to be in a position where we're using someone's child to try to win. That's not what this is. And if anybody is about that, well, then I'm not with you, or you're not with me. This is about helping a family. I went from the business of basketball to the business of helping families. And guess what? Made life easier for everyone around me, and to where we know what we're focused on, and we understand what winning is, because we've won more than any program in the last 11 years.
This is amazing.
If you have a story to share, tell us. How are you going to leave your mark? Contact us. Leave your mark with our host, Vince Cortese. Be our guest.
How does, when you're a coach, it's so difficult because you can't do it for them, and the relaying of getting that motivation. It's like, what does that feel like when you get the best out of it? Somebody who was fighting you to do. I don't know that you can put a price on that, but in some of this, I think, because I remember you referencing DeMarcus Cousins, and DeMarcus looks like he's a pretty strong-willed young man. And when you're trying to communicate through that, what does that feel like for you when you succeed on that?
Well, there's, when a player says to me, I'm still using terms that you told me. Antonio Anderson sent me a text that he and Chris Douglas Roberts were talking about some of the things that I taught. When I was talking to Mike Williams, his 2 sons, they said, Coach, we want you to know. And I struggle with Mike at times. Mike won a bunch of games, but Mike was difficult at times. And so they said, we just want you to know, not once ever in our company did our dad ever say anything bad about you.
Wow.
Now you think about that. And so here I was in coaching hard, really aggressive, you know, and not getting along like with every kid. There's some kids that will fight you at every step. And I wasn't budging. My will would be stronger than that. But at the end of the day, you have a comment like that, it makes you emotional. I mean, the stuff that Antonio hit me with he and Chris Douglas, you know, you're just like, wow, you know. So the only thing at the end of the day, your legacy when you're coaching is going to be about what you left with the young people that you've coached. I was talking to Dante Bright 2 days ago. We were talking about Mike Williams. We're talking about him. And I told him how proud I was of him, what he's doing right now. He's got his own family, but he's really involved in training young basketball players. And he's fighting and working to get to the gym and doing all these different things. And I told him, I'm proud of him. He's doing God's work. And he got emotional because he thought, well, you know, success means that I made it to the NBA and I'm an all-star. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And success is the impact you have on others. Success becomes, for me, what have I taught and left these young people with that they can give to their children? So, you know, I've been blessed. I mean, I've been blessed in so many ways, more than I deserve. Why am I, you know, come on, you knew me. You're looking at me like, how did this guy get to Kentucky and become a coach this way? And, you know, hopefully it's that, you know, I've been blessed because of the impact I can have on others.
It's truly amazing that you're the same guy, going through all what you have, because that's how I remembered you. Just, hardworking. I mean, at Clarion, I mean, you were renting apartments and all this thing of being a scholarship guy. I was like, this guy's got it going on. It's like you had the energy, you had the direction, you had the focus, and it was like, God blessed you and put the right motivation in front of you with the basketball. And it's like, I don't know that you'd have been any happier in your life doing anything other than coaching. It was just hand in glove with who you are.
But I say this, I sat the other day with my wife and I'm like, geez, you know what? I really haven't worked a day in my life. I'm like, I'm doing what I love and have an impact and hopefully impacting young people and in a way that, you know, they know I'm there for them. I made this about them. You care about them. But yeah, the best compliment could be paid is what you said, Vince. You're the same guy. My high school guys laugh at me. My dad laughs and says, I don't know what you're doing, but keep fooling them. You know, because, you know, it's you want to make sure that I understand who I am. I understand where I come from. I understand my limitations. I'm not as good as everybody says. You ready for this one? But I'm not as bad as everybody said. And so,
Coach Cheney now,
yeah. And he passed away within the last year. Sad.
I knew that.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
this is
Vince,
I want you to answer one question for me, and you kind of led on to it, so it'll probably be a short one. Everyone that comes on, and asks them how they would like to be remembered, and you leave in your mark. So I know the coaching part is fulfilled, but others, how would they speak about you?
Yeah, this guy really cared about his guys, and it was authentic, and he cared, and that's the bottom line of all of it.
It's awesome.
You're authentic in what you're trying to do.
That's true. Because as you just mentioned right there real quick, I get a kick out of watching you in between halftime and the end of the game when they get the quick interview. And I'm like, you don't want to ask him that question because you're not going to get the answer you want. But it's always fun to watch you because your competitive nature makes it enjoyable. It's always going to be something fun to watch. But I can't tell you how thankful I am that you came on.
Thanks, Vince. You know, I appreciate you and your family. Mom and Dad, you make sure you give them a hug from me, okay?
I will do that. And I'll be in touch. I want to see some games this year. Hopefully the coach allows that.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you
Vince.
so much. All right, bye-bye now.
You just left your mark. Thanks for listening. Listen to more episodes on demand. Just click Leave Your Mark with Vince Cortese.